Okay, Danette, I'm so excited to have you on our podcast. There is no try. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. For people who may not know you, brag for a second. Tell people about you.
Well, first off, I'm excited to be here, and I love that we're live on YouTube. I'm seeing that it's live on YouTube. Is that true?
Yes,
We're
that is
live?
true.
Hello, everybody. So I want to hear it from everybody, like where they're from around the world. That's really incredible that we're live on YouTube. My name is Danette May, and I'm also known as America's leading healthy lifestyle expert. I've been really helping women primarily, but now men, really step into this sense of empowerment. And what that looks like is through healing foods, healing movement, and a healing mindset. So all of these programs, which there have been about 8 of them, are really built on those 3 pillars and really doing it in a way that's more simple. So 5-ingredient cookie, 10 minutes workout in your home using multiple muscle groups, and then 5-minute meditations. And then, I wrote a book with Hay House called The Rise, which was my beautiful offering into the world, where I got to really share my dirty secrets about what I went through and to where I am today. And
Yes.
it was a very vulnerable book to write. I didn't sleep for probably the whole time I wrote that at night. I woke up in sweats. But I'm really grateful that I was able to write that book with Hay House. I have another book coming out with them early of next year. And then I created a superfood company called Earth Echo, which is all around the highest organic superfoods you can consume in a really yummy way, but that are also good. Like the way that they're cultivated, the way they're harvested is good for the planet. So that's what I do, and that's what I love. And so thank you for letting me share.
No, I absolutely love it. I love the story. I love the vulnerability specifically in your book, and that is really what drew me to wanting you to be on the podcast, because authenticity has turned into a trope, frankly, right? It's like thrown around like, oh, be authentic, right? Coca-Cola needs to be authentic in their branding. It's like, what does that even? I don't even know what that means. But your book came across very, very raw. I won't even say real. I'll say like one step further, very raw. Like I'm hurt. This hurt. Let me tell you about it, and it hurts telling you about it, right? And I really enjoyed that. One interesting tidbit that also just a personal note that drove me to listen to what you were working on and the foods that you make is my family and I got to spend a month in Italy. So we moved to Italy. We moved to Rome for about a month, and we did not watch what we ate. We walked around Rome. We rented a flat right near the Piazza di Popolo, right in kind of the heart of Rome, and we walked everywhere. We went grocery shopping every day, sometimes twice a day. Went to cafes, etc. And my wife and I both lost weight, and we thought, well, hold on. We're eating pasta like 9 times a day, and we just like walk around and drink espresso and like, how are we losing weight? And it really came down to, the quality of the ingredients is so critical that, we hear about it here in the United States, but I'll be honest, I was pretty cynical. I was like, a head of lettuce is a head of lettuce. A loaf of bread is a loaf of bread. I can tell everybody like that is not true. I experienced it firsthand, living there and eating that versus eating the same food here. I felt different. My weight changed for the worse here, the better there. Game changer. So it really is. It is not marketing hype. I promise you, as a guy who was super skeptical about this stuff, it is not. Like you have to pay attention to what actually goes into that food. So can we talk a little bit about that before we dig into kind of the meat of your story?
Yeah, I actually love that you bring this up, because this is what's happening to a lot of people. And it can be that you went to Bali, or you went to Italy, or you went to even Mexico. People can have this experience.
Yes.
So I think you hit on one of the reasons, and one is the quality of food. And it is true, like in Mexico or in Italy, what you're talking about, the wine is different than our wine. Okay, they don't have the sulfites like we do. It's typically more organic. The other thing is their breads, their flour is different than the flour we go pick up at our grocery store. You can eat pasta and still lose weight and feel energetic and not feel slumpy. Yes. Just the way that it was processed. And in Italy, they still, especially if you were in more like going where the locals go and all of that,
Yep.
you were picking up more of the ancient type of flour versus the flour that we as Americans are tending to basically mass produce and alter and denature the grain
Yes.
of that flour or that grain. But then the other piece to this is pleasure. And here's what people are missing is that when you're in a state of awe, a state of presence, a state of like pleasure, because come on, you go to Italy, you're like, wow, we're walking to the markets, we're having espresso at 3 and at 12 and at 5, and we're,
Yes.
we're drinking this wine and we're eating pasta. You're feeling pretty dang good. And you're living that lifestyle of being in pleasure and being in the moment. Like you said, we went to the grocery store twice. It wasn't because it's because you gave yourself time to go to the grocery store. It gave you time to go to those cafes. And this is a piece that a lot of people are not tapping into. We're hitting against the wall of trying to be healthy or trying to lose weight, when what if you just figured out how to give yourself more pleasure? Give yourself a little bit more of that joy, that presence, that letting off the throttle a little bit. Eating because it tastes good, enjoying the things versus thinking about calories or thinking about those things. What happens is, and I call it loving yourself lean, is when people step into that and that's their focus and they start to just love life, the body starts to release stubborn body fat, because that's just toxins that we're holding on of you trying to hold on so tight.
Yes. Sorry. Didn't quite realize. Yeah, you're 100% right. That is so spot on. Okay, so before we go off on a tirade on those things, I want to get into your personal journey, because that's a lot about what There Is No Try is about. That's what this podcast is about, right? It's about getting granular with people's stories and pulling out what I call the truthisms, right? And so I try to interject some of my story, but we've had guests on here from rap stars to race car drivers, NFL, athletes to Navy SEALs and authors and everybody in between, and all very different people from very different backgrounds. But through their journey that we really claw into, dig into, we pull these like universal truths out. And those are what my listeners want to hear as they can apply that to their life and their situation. So why don't we skip forward a little bit in that, when tell us about a time in your life where things were not going well. You weren't this big successful person with a book under her belt and another one on the way and this food brand and this following. You didn't have all those things. Tell us about before that. Where were you?
Yeah, and I just want to say that I can say with 100% certainty, if anybody's going through what I call is the refiner's fire, you referred to it the dip.
Yep,
I call it the refiner's fire. And I have to say that without my refiner's fire, which I'll share with you what that low for me, which is the refiner's fire, I wouldn't be standing here today. I would not have a book. I would not be having Earth Echo Superfood Company and be inspiring millions of people. It took my refiner's fire for me to be molded to the woman I am today. And I guarantee if you use this refiner's fire, you may be going through or about to go through to your advantage, you will be sculpted, you will be molded, and you will be sloughed off into your truest character. So for me, that was, I'm trying to think how many years now. I was going through what I would call my refiner's fire, and wasn't one moment. It's like you hear of hitting rock bottom, and then there's another rock bottom, and you're like, how did I get lower?
Yeah, exactly.
Think about rock bottom. You only have one direction to go, and that's up. And so if you're in it, then celebrate, because you're only going up now. So for me, I was in this relationship, which I'm saying, if I didn't have the loss of my son, I can tell you that it just wouldn't have spiraled the way it spiraled. I write about it in my book, and the fact that I feel like I lost him to basically come alive within myself. And I was in a relationship, obviously loving. There's great humans out there, but it wasn't the truth of where I was going. And I was making up stories in my mind. I was on autopilot. So it wasn't like my life was horrible. It was just that I was living into the reality of what I was conditioned to live into, what religion views I should have, what kind of friends I should have, the clothes I should have, the kind of mom I should be, the kind of home I should live in, the kind of wife I should be. And literally my soul was like, but I was like
Yes.
shoving it down, shoving it down, shoving it down, and just like ready to erupt. And I then, as I just said, I lost my son. And it was this moment of my son passing and me going in through this deep depression, because when it happened, I hadn't known what depression was. I didn't really understand depression, but here I was, didn't really leave my house for 3 months. I didn't even go out to buy food really at the grocery store. And was so in it that even my youngest, well, she was my only child, but she was young. She didn't understand what a curb was. So I had to explain to her that what a curb was and tell her she couldn't go past the curb so that she would go outside and play, but I wasn't going out with her. And that's the depression I was in. And it really was the catalyst for me to rise up to be who I am today, because I could either stay in bed and be in this depression, but there was like a light, which I believe all of us have, like this inner knowing that I couldn't be built for this. This couldn't be what's going to be happening. So I started heading in this direction. And then of course everything fell out underneath me again when I went through a really hard divorce, which anybody who's gone through a divorce, no one's like, is there ever a pleasant divorce? But, but that was really hard because it left me with $47 to my name. And then I was at a different sifting of character, right? Like who am I as this mom? And how am I going to show up? I have $47 to feed these 2 kids that I'm solely responsible for. There was no finances coming in outside of that. And it really was this whole culmination of losing my son and this whole like being alone in the home with $47 raising kids as a single mom that really helped me to go turn on the lights. Yeah.
So number one, thank you for sharing that. And as a father, I have 2 little ones. I can't imagine, I can't fathom, like, I don't even know what that would be like, the level of depression and sadness. I don't understand. I only as being a parent can I say, I feel for you, but I honestly don't understand. I don't know what that would be like. And I hope I never do.
Mm-hmm.
The weight of that is tremendous. And for any of the listeners out there who haven't had children yet, being a parent is like having low grade anxiety all the time, because you're constantly like, what did they eat? What did they just stick in their mouth? What did they do? Where are they? What do they do? Like, you're just constantly a little bit of worry, like low grade anxiety all the time. So that level of weight does one of 2 things to people. You either get consumed by the black hole of depression, and depression has so much gravity around it, right? They're actually, unintended systems to keep you depressed. Daytime TV is a good example. Netflix, Uber Eats, DoorDash, these things enable you to stay depressed. They make it so easy. Bad food, junk food delivered to your door is a quick way to stay depressed. All this sort of junk food on TV entertainment so you can just sit there and not have to move. These things enable you to stay in that pit, and you can stay there for the rest of your life. That can be your choice. Or you can do what Danette just said, which is at some point you have this, well, it can't be this. Life can't be this hard. It can't be there. There has to be more than this. It can't be this sort of oppressive black hole, as I like to call it, where the gravity, the weight of the world and the depression just is pulling you down. At some point, you can either succumb to that, and that is who you are, and then really you're just waiting to die at that point, if we're being truthful. Or you can say, no, there is more, and I'm going to fight like hell. I'm going to figure out some way for the more part. I don't know where more is. I don't know how to get there, but I know that this ain't it.
Yes.
And I've very much been in that position before. So was it an epiphany for you, or was it a slow, gradual change? Like, tell us a little bit more granular. What happened here?
Yeah, there were moments, and I think there's what we call aha moments that will happen. Some might be one time, it might be a couple times. Sometimes people have moments where it's like the light bulb comes on in a dream or they have a near death experience. Mine was gradual. And I just want to let everyone know that transformation, we get caught up that transformation has to look a certain way. And
Mm,
transformation can look so many different ways. So let yours be yours. Don't get caught up in the story that it has to look a certain way for it to be real. So for me, I just remember that I was like, I have to get out of this house. I was in my
yeah.
and I had all these like signs of having a baby. So imagine you had this baby and your body's like wrecked from having a baby. It's very difficult anyway to like move around a lot after having a baby. And then I would put depression on top of it and non-movement. So I literally took forever to get my shoes on, but I was like, I got to get out. I got to get out. And I was like, I'm just going to walk around the block. And to other people, that might not seem like a big deal. But for me, I'm a runner. I'm a marathon runner. Walking around the block was like the smallest thing I could do. And so I was like, that's all I have to do is just get around this block, but I've got to move. And it was like the hardest. I remember just the buildup felt really hard. But then when I was around the block, I just remember being in this present moment of like watching the cracks, watching the fences, the different homes, and then hearing the birds. And it was this, everything was rumbling. And this is why you don't want to move as a human being when you're in depression, because your ego knows if you start to move, you will crack open and the light can come in. But it feels like scary to crack open, right? You're just trying to
Super.
hold yourself together. And my advice to you is let it totally crack open. Let yourself fall apart and be like surrender to that falling apart, because that's what's keeping you from wanting to move or wanting to make a change, because you're like, what if I fall apart? You will. And you will fall apart so that you can stand up finally. So I was walking and my heart was cracking and I was feeling all the emotions. And that's what I didn't want to have happen, because then maybe the neighbors would see me. And here I am, cracking, falling apart, crying each step. And that was exactly what I needed, is to let the light in, to fall apart. And so that was the first step. But then I was like, all right, I gotta take my own medicine. I gotta move my body. I've heard about moving my body for depression. I used to preach it and now I'm living it. Now I have to live it. So it just started off slow. And then I was like, okay, I had a lot of brain fog. And of course I had the background of my conscious brain who was like, you got to eat well, you got to move. You taught this stuff. And now I was experiencing it right on a cellular level, which was what created these programs, because I had to feel what it felt like, right? For me to really take people to the next level, to take this business, this idea to the next level. So then I started just playing around with like, superfoods. I started researching like depression and what superfoods help with depression, and just started like doing that. And I was just slowly the fog was lifting. I was starting to breathe again. And that's when the second rock bottom fell out, right? That's when the divorce happened, because I started waking up. And that's the thing, like your body, your soul knows, right? And your ego knows like where you're going. So it can feel like there's a sense of resistance.
Yes.
And I say follow that resistance. Follow the butterflies, follow the thing that you're a little afraid of, because that's where you're going to expand. Because it knew like soon as she starts to wake up, she's going to dismantle everything and it's about to get real. It's about to get a little crazy around here. And that's what happened. I started dismantling my belief systems, everything that I thought I believed about myself, I was questioning and dismantling. And it's brave, it's courageous work.
Yes.
To do
so
that.
critical though.
Yeah, but it's like what's on the other side of that work is just absolute beauty, absolute unlimited potential. So anyway, that's kind of that journey until I was started waking up. And there's more that I had to do. It's not like it happened overnight. I just
And we'll get into some of that. So 2 points here for some of the listeners. So there's a really famous founder named Matt Mullenweg. He founded a company called Automatic. Get it, Matt Mullenweg. So if you're not familiar with Matt's work, you are definitely familiar with his software, as it powers roughly 40% of the internet. So most web pages are built on Automatic's products. So he is massively successful, and he was in terribly bad shape and had depression. And so he had convinced himself he had given himself a fitness goal. And the fitness goal was 1 push-up a day. One. Not 1 set, just 1. Because he said, you know what, if I can just do the 1 a day, it's a start. It's the first step. But what ends up happening, and it sounds so ridiculous to have such an easy goal is to do 1 push-up, right? But what ends up happening is you get down there, the fear, the anticipation, in his case, just the lack of desire to do it, he had to force himself to do the 1. But then what happens when you're already, you committed, you're there. Okay, I can do 5. I can do 10. I'm already here.
An object in motion stays in motion. It's just getting into motion.
Yes. So your point about like, I just had to walk around the block, but what do you have to do before you walk around the block? You got to convince yourself to put on sneakers, right? Like you got to convince the lead up, the suffering in your mind is far outweighs the suffering of going for that walk. But yet that's, many of us are caged by that imagination, that suffering that we imagine in our heads. So that's one. And another book, one of my favorite books that I would strongly recommend that line up really nicely with your story, is called The War of Art.
Yes, I've heard of that. I've actually heard about this a lot.
So The War of Art is really interesting because it's written by a fiction author, and this is a nonfiction book, and it's about how the more you put out into the world in terms of you're trying to be creative, you're trying to write a book, you're trying to start a company, you're trying to get promoted, you're trying to have more, whatever more is for you, you're trying to be a better spouse, a better parent, whatever that is, there's resistance. There's this resistance that pushes back on you, right? Then, and I was kind of joking Netflix and DoorDash and things like that, but that's sort of that depression. All of that is a form of resistance. But the art, the beauty, the success comes from pushing through that, which is exactly what you were saying. So there's a lot of truth in what you're describing and some of the steps that build you out. Okay, so let's fast forward. All right, so we've gone through second rock bottom, and when does it all start to fit together for you in terms of when do you make the decision to take to really focus on the company? Because when you're depressed and you're going through divorce, you're not thinking about work, you're not thinking about anything other than survival mode, right? So take us a little bit through the foundation of your company and how that timing worked out.
Yeah, and I just want to say that when you're in these states, it's like it's going to require you getting through for you to actually see that you got through. Because when you're in it, it just feels like the right next move
Right.
for today, how can I show up today? And so for me, it was once I started to get the light bulb on, which meant eating healing foods, really getting that brain fog out, moving my body, saying loving mindset. So I do want to say what I did is was researching people that were successful, right? I was like, and I found this common denominator, which is not even a secret to any of us now, which was all of these people had crazy past, like, whoa, like
Yes.
I'm in the club. I've got this crazy going down, but they all did too. So maybe this is actually a gift. And I found that the same formula every single one said was, I write down affirmations, and not just any affirmations, the opposite of what you're feeling. So I took out a piece of paper and I wrote down everything that I was like, all the negativity that was coming up. So I'm not a good mom. I'm a financial ruin. I don't have any friends. I'm not going to amount to my dreams. All the things that would pop up in negativity, I wrote them all down.
Yep.
And then I wrote the opposite of it. So this took me some time. I had to really look at it. And then I wrote the opposite. I am a great mom. I'm a financial success. I am living in my dreams. I am healthy. I am beautiful. I am powerful. All the I ams. And I made a radical commitment to myself in that moment. Because right then, after I wrote them, I was in a pretty good state, right? I had gotten into motion, which we just talked about.
Yeah.
And then I made a radical choice. And the thing about me is if I commit to somebody, I'm also committing to myself. So I want you to ask yourself, are you impeccable with your word? And when we say impeccable with our word, we think of, oh, am I honest with somebody else? If I say I'm going to do it, do I do it? But most people are not impeccable to themselves, to their word. So if you say you're going to do something for yourself, are you impeccable with that? And for me, I was like, okay, when I get into this negativity, because when you're in the negativity spiral, the last thing you want to do is meditate. The last thing you want to do is get out in nature. The last
Yes.
thing you want to do is move your body. And the last thing you want to do is eat a salad. Like that is like the last
Yeah.
of all the emotions when you're spiraling, and everyone can relate to this. So I had to make that decision that when I go into the state, I pull out my paper and I read these I ams.
Yep.
And I made that commitment and I stuck with that commitment. So it took a lot of that, just crawling over to the paper and just reading it. That was my only commitment. And I read it sometimes many times throughout the day, depending on the day. And then over time, these affirmations and reading those got less and less, but I am committed to them every single day, even today. So I feel like that was the catalyst, the little nugget that really got me to start attracting the right business partner, to start thinking the business idea, to start just being aware of what's going on around me and the opportunities around me. So it took me shifting that internal story and doing it when I wanted to spiral and shifting it. So that's the first thing I did. And then obviously I started getting my legs underneath me, right? I was like still broke as a joke, tinfoil holding my antenna, sleeping on my parents' mattress that they probably conceived me on, which was so disgusting. And I was so poor, like I just was. I didn't have friends, and that was actually to my benefit. I didn't have TV. I was using the Wi-Fi from the neighbor's wall, and I didn't have any noise outside of me other than myself. And once I got those legs underneath me, I could start hearing my own voice, which was, you can't be alone on this. There's got to be other people that need these healing foods, this movement idea, these meditations. How can you help another woman who's in her spiral? How can you help another woman who's in her refiner's fire to see the light of the flame? So that's where the business idea came. My mess became my message.
Okay. I got to interrupt. So there's two super important truthisms here. So, that's my shtick, right? I'm always trying to find those universal truths of what has worked for everyone throughout time. And I'm going to speak about you as if you're not sitting here for right now. But one of the things she mentioned is scratching her own itch, right? She was her first customer, right? Then you were your first customer. You were in this situation. It sucked. You had to figure it out. Mother is necessity is the mother of invention. And you did, and you took these baby steps. It was painful, and you went through this journey, and that you were the first customer for this recipe. Of course, you didn't know it at the time, but there's a recipe, this cocktail that you were putting together that ultimately you went, well, that recipe worked pretty well for me. I'm starting to see results. I wonder if there's got to be other people like me, right? So whatever your business idea is, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs and founders that listen to this podcast, and they always ask me about, where'd you come up with your idea, or where do I find an idea? And I go, well, you're thinking about it completely wrong. The customer is you. You are the first customer. Scratch that itch, figure the thing out that you need, because unfortunately, there's a lot of people who have been in similar situations as you. So that's one. The second one I wanted to talk about is affirmations. So I'm a granular guy. I'm a data guy. I'm a science guy. And unfortunately, affirmations can sound kind of woo-woo to people, right? Now, I will tell you that science has proven the fact that these work. So we're going to remove the word affirmation for one second. We're going to delete that. We're going to call it luck. Do you feel that you are lucky? It's a binary question. It's either yes, I'm lucky, or no, I am not lucky. So there was a study done out of Cambridge University where a professor wanted to understand luck and how people interacted with luck. So he found a group of people who felt that they were very lucky, and found a group of people who thought they were very unlucky. And he ran a series of tests against these two groups. And the two tests that I thought were the most interesting were, he handed a book to all of the subjects. It's the same exact book. And they had to read the whole book from cover to cover, big, thick volume book, before the end of the day. A ton of work. Well, what they didn't know is on the second page, it said, if you've read this far, you don't have to finish the book. Unlucky people didn't see it and they read the whole book. All of the people who were lucky in their minds spotted it immediately and stopped reading. Then it gets better. He has the most simple test in the whole world. He said, hey, I need you to go out and catch the bus in front of the university. All the lucky people, one by one, are sent to go catch the bus. All the unlucky people, one by one, are sent to go catch the bus. What they don't realize is there's $100 bill placed on the ground between the door and the bus, just across this short parking lot. This is a few feet, right? This isn't 6 miles away. This is 20 feet away. And only 1 in 10 unlucky people, I'm using air quotes here, people who thought that they were unlucky, only 1 in 10 of those people actually saw the money. Where the exact opposite was true for people who believe that they are lucky. 9 out of 10 of those people saw the money. These are the exact same tests, the exact same everything. So why is that? Because you have a foregone conclusion in your head that you are a bad mom and a financial ruin and you have no friend. If you believe that, you are those things. This isn't woo. This isn't affirmation. We're burning sage and candles here, people. This is actual data. This really actually works. So I have to go on that quick tirade because, unfortunately, some people hear certain words and they dismiss them because sometimes simple things are easy to dismiss. You go, it can't be that easy. She was lucky. She was there. If she had a friend, a silver spoon, whatever the excuse is, people will put those excuses, seeing the level of success you've had now. So I just wanted to go into that a little bit and just say, if you actually give a shit, science has proven this is empirically true, right? So you can align your chakras and namaste all you want, but science has said this actually works. So I am a big fan of doing what works. That's all I care about. So anyway, I had to interrupt. Those are super, super important.
I love that you did because you put it in a way that I didn't even actually know about those tests. And that's such potent data for us to recognize. Because when I did the affirmations, it wasn't like the clouds parted. It was because my brain was able to actually now see the opportunity in front of me. Because I was doing this. But also, you guys, there is studies scientifically on the power of words, just on the molecular structure. So think of like your cells, think of like water molecules or food molecules. You can do this with your own home. And I did it with my kids kind of during this time when I was like, whoa, these words are powerful. We put 3 grains of rice. So we just took same bag of rice, put them in 3 different containers, put them in the same spot in the house. So they all got the same amount of air, same light. And I just wrote on the outside of them, mean. I said mean because my youngest was like 2 or 3. Yeah. Mean, nothing, and nice. And every day I told the kids, when you go to that grain of that little, and they were by each other, these little things were sitting on the counter. I was like, you say mean words to that grain of rice, that one and the one that says mean. Where it says nothing, you just ignore it. Where it says nice, you say all the nice things you can to it. And I would see them like doing it and kind of giggling and then walk off. I did it, they did it. Literally 7 days, that mean grain of rice started getting mold. It was like turning brown on some of the ends. Oh. Nothing did nothing. The positive did nothing. Then 2 weeks went by, more like changing color on the mean one. And then the nothing one started to change slightly, because ignoring is also not going to actually help in your growth. Right. And then the positive one, it was the same grain of rice. You guys, power of words to change the molecular structure of we are basically a part of every living system on the planet. So watch your words, watch your thoughts, because your thoughts become your words, and it truly changes the way your brain thinks, the way your body responds. So Yeah, I can't talk enough about it. I will always be doing them. I have more that I want to do in this world.
Yes, yes. I once read about this. This could be a touch of morbid and dark for one quick second, but important because it sets sort of a finite line in what we're talking about, which is during Hitler's reign, he had a lot of science experiments. Many of them you can watch on the History Channel, Discovery Channel, but some of them, I mean, they're so terrible and they're so awful. However, one that I was shocked by was a test that he had run on babies, right? These are infants, babies.
Yeah.
One group, they were raised by nuns, which was common back in at that time, right? These are orphan children. One are loved upon,
Oh yeah.
and the others are not.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the cribs are same, the building is the same, the people are the same, the food is the same, all controls are the same. One has kind words, one has basically just ignored, not mean word, nothing like that, just ignored in terms of a loving context, right? So saying, warm things to the babies, etc. But otherwise, all their other needs are met. They're clean, they're fed, they're slept, they're dry, they're warm, they're safe, they're all the same. The babies that weren't loved on died. I mean, there's no nice way to say it. They died, right? So again, while that's disgusting, and it actually, like, as a parent, like, very much upsets me right now, it's kind of talking about it. But what we're talking about, folks, what Danette is talking about, what I'm talking about, it's real. It's very, very real. So if you say stupid things to yourself about yourself, if you are critical on yourself all the time, you call yourself names all the time in your head where you don't think anybody else can hear it, we can hear it. Everything can hear it. You can call it the universe, or you can just call it science. It doesn't matter. It's not going to work. It doesn't work for you empirically. So sorry to beat a dead horse, but it's incredibly important that people understand.
I love that. I love that. And I want to take it a step further really quick, because
Please.
if you're kind of like, well, I think I got that. I'm not really that hard on myself, but I want to ask you, are you the person who's like, that's an idiot driver? That person's so dumb. Why'd they say that? If you're outside judging someone else, trust me,
Yep.
it's the same story you're telling yourself. So if you're wondering if you have a problem with this because you just can't relate to those stories in your head, watch how you treat other people. Watch the stories you say about other people, because we all have them.
Yep.
Right? Like
Yep.
when you walk into a room and if you have a lot of judgment towards others, just know that that's actually judgment that you have on yourself, and you get to clean that up, because once you do, literally, I tell you, your relationships are going to be better, your businesses are going to be better, your health is going to be better. And that's a good way for you to really assess what is the truth that you're actually saying to yourself, because it's easier to pick up on what you're saying to other people.
Yeah. I long ago, I saw an interview with Bill, former President Bill Clinton, and he had this great line that he said, when anybody treats me harshly, my first thought isn't, oh, they're mean or they're a jerk or they're whatever. My first thought is, oh, did they eat today? Did they get enough sleep? Did they have a fight with their spouse? When we think about someone being mean to us, instantly, what does it become about? Us, right? Because we're humans, we're egocentric. So we think internally, we're like, oh, that person was mean to us, me. When actually, if someone is rude to you or mean to you or curt to you, you should turn it around and go, oh, I hope they're okay. I hope that they didn't just get bad news about a family member, or maybe they had a bad dream last night and didn't sleep very well, or they didn't have enough to eat this morning. Those things will dramatically impact how that person interacts with you, number one. But number two, you will be so much happier. Forget them for a second. Let's be egotistical narcissists for a second. You will be so much happier by not being like, oh, that person's a stupid jerk and he's a big meanie. No, you just go, man, I hope they're okay. And you will find this lightness about you when you just give everybody the benefit of the doubt and move on, right? That it's not just you're not out to get you, they're not out to attack you, right? So, all right, we're getting a little sidebarred here. I want to get back to your company and building your following and writing the book. There's a lot to build here as we're growing out of this dip. And now we're building ourselves, you're building your life, you're building your self-confidence, and then subsequently you're building your business. So let's get into, how do you come up with your first products, and how do you start, I won't even say selling, because I happen to know you didn't sell, you told, which is a completely different way of getting it out there. So please.
I'm not sure how granular you want. So for me, I knew that I had this content, right? I knew that I had a program, but I also knew, I was smart enough to know that it doesn't matter how great your program is, if you don't have marketing, most people aren't going to hear about it. And so I was like, how do I find a marketer? And that's really where my brain went. How do I find a marketer that will believe in this and want to partner with me? And I think when you ask yourself questions, so this is the truthism, when you ask the right questions to your brain will actually try to find a solution. So for example, I asked, where are the marketers? Because I just thought they're going to believe in my idea and want to be partners with me. I didn't even have any doubt about that. But another way to step even further, I should have said, why am I finding so many amazing marketers? That would be a great question that I could be asking myself, if you want to like really speed dial your success. But for me, when I asked this question, I was like, okay, how do you find a marketer? And so then that led me to looking on Twitter, who was trending on Twitter under fitness. And I just typed in fitness. Like, I was like, well, that's broad. And then all of a sudden, like, things populated. It was called Twitter Wonk. It lets you know what's trending. And I don't know why I chose Twitter, because I didn't even have a Twitter account. I just did Twitter. And I saw a name, number 4. It was right below Oxygen Magazine. I was like, oh, a name. And it said a name, and it said Vail, Colorado. And I was like, okay, it's a human. It's not a corporation. I can find out where this name is in Vail, Colorado. Took out trusty Facebook, looked up the name, and then found that it was correlating to Vail, Colorado. Started messaging and just kept hammering away. We laugh about it now. He's now my business partner and my husband, but we laugh about it now. I wrote to him, silence. Wrote to him again, silence. Wrote to him again, silence. I probably wrote to him about 5 to 7 times before I got a ping back that was like, sure, I like helping out entrepreneurs. We can jump on a call. I was like, yes. And then I remember feeling super duped, because when we got on the phone, he was like, kind of, you can tell when someone's not really focused on you. He was getting on a bus to go skiing. And he was like, oh, I only work half days. I'm a marketer, I have a marketing company, and I moved to Vail so I can ski. So I'm going skiing, but I'm fine talking to you until the bus stops. I was like, really? Like, you're on a bus talking to me? I was able to share some insights, and it took a while and then I would write him again, and then I would write him again, and I just got crickets from him. But then I finally was like, I actually need to meet you. And I think he thought I was crazy, but doesn't matter. So I met him, and I drove out with points from Marriott and the little gas change that I had. I didn't have a lot of money. It's a crazy story, because I was like, I'll take him to dinner. And I had never, ever eaten anything that was over $7 for an entree at that point in my life. Like, I was not a girl that went out to eat at all. And here he took me to the most expensive seafood place in Vail Village, which Vail Village is already overpriced.
Right.
So anyway, long story, we ended up, after about 6 months of this whole like back and forth, he finally was like, hey, I think you have something. I think you could talk to some other people. And it took a year for him to understand that, like, I was the ticket for him to grow this business. But I kept in that belief, because he tried to pawn me off on other marketers, which ultimately would have been fine too, right? Like, I would have been fine with these other marketers as business partners, but I knew it was him, and I was committed to just riding out until he knew it was him. And then I got a 2 for 1. But and then I had a marketer on my team, which I had to give off a good percentage of my dream to him. At this time we weren't lovers. It's not like I had a lack of trust for somebody, and I had people telling me, Danette, you can't give him that percentage of the business. This is your idea. And here's the deal, you guys, like, when you have a passion and a purpose, not just a passion, but a purpose, don't get so caught up in these percentages, because honestly, like I'm happy if it was a lower deal. Like I'm happier to give him a higher percentage because I knew I wanted to be in my purpose. And so just don't be afraid of that. I see a lot of women especially do this, and I'm like,
Mhm.
stop. Like, you want to reach masses, you need a team, give away some of the farm. Like, it's
Yes.
fine.
Yes.
But anyway, so that's how it all started.
Wow. Quick sidebar to that last comment, because you're spot on. So for some people already know this, but I came from the finance world, and so I worked for two different Fortune 100 finance companies. One was Bank of America's institutional asset management arm, and the other one was Prudential's. And so my clients were Google, Boeing, Merrill Lynch, UBS, Morgan Stanley. Those were my clients. So kind of institutional side, not the retail side. And part of that is we rolled out this training protocol for successful women, career women who had above average incomes, that typically made financial decisions within their company. Forget about their home for a second. And so we spent a ton of money on research. And it was all about understanding how women invest, and more specifically, how they make the decisions. Now, we used it to train people, men and women, on how individuals, specifically females, invested in the stock market. We also wanted to use that data, of course, so that we could sell better to women, right? So there was two reasons we were doing it. And here's a really interesting thing. And this is going to come across controversial. I'm doing it on purpose. So full disclosure, men are better investors than women. Do you know why? Because women don't invest. They hoard cash. They're way better savers than men. Men are terrible savers. Men tend to be much more risk prone and make more mistakes. The problem that women do is they don't make the mistake. They hoard the cash because they're too afraid. They sit on huge amounts of money. So it's kind of a joke in that it's not about men and women being better or worse than each other around investing. It's that, to your exact point, the math shows that for some reason women are risk adverse. So they'd rather, in the finance world, hoard all this cash, sit on cash, which is a terrible investment, then take that step and give away some of that risk, or participate in some of that risk, where men are the opposite, right? They do too much in the other direction. Men take to make too many risky bets, and that hurts them, right? So again, it's not, it comes across controversial, and it's supposed to, because it's supposed to get you all riled up. But the reality of it is that for whatever reason, women don't, they want to hold on to that piece. They got what they got. They want to hold on to it tightly. Even though when you look at female founders, female investors, female entrepreneurs, they kick ass. Statistically, they actually do a better job than their male counterparts. As a guy who is from VC, who invested in men and women, empirically, women make better founders. They are statistically more likely to be successful. And there's a variety of reasons for that. That being said, ladies, if you're listening, follow Miss May here. Take action. Take action.
Yeah. You don't have to do it all. And ultimately,
No.
just ultimate business advice. I speak at a lot of business conferences for a lot of business entrepreneurs. I coach high levels, business owners, CEOs. And the big thing is, like, if you want to grow, you need to invest in growth partners and people that have the skills that you don't have. And that means, like, honestly, you get to stay in your purpose, and who cares if you're divvying out some of the funds, like, you're going to grow to a higher level. So just remembering that that's a whole different conversation, business strategy conversation.
Yes,
but
yes.
I mean, I'm going to go to put my stamp on it, because obviously it's paid off for us.
Yes. Okay. So you've locked down a great marketer. He has helped you push your messaging out there, your content out there. So people listening carefully at home, she went value first. She led with value. She led with content. Then pick up the torch and take it from here. But then you had products to sell into, right?
Yeah. So just so you guys understand, we send out 365 emails a year. That means an email a day. We are not messing around. We serve, we serve, we serve. So anyone that goes through what I would call an email funnel, or they get on my email list, and I appreciate, because my business partner understands this too, because all I wanted to do was serve, right? I just wanted to serve, but he also understood the science behind it. You want to serve. And so honestly, anyone could get anything they wanted from my YouTubes, my email, without buying a single program. You could get every recipe, every workout, every mindset tool absolutely free, because I give it all to you. But what happens is that builds trust, right? And obviously people want it all in one little easy spot, and then they buy your program. But I never sold right out of the gate. And even to get an email, what we did is we gave them a recipe that was super delicious, super easy to make. I just made them actually this morning, which is these peanut butter balls, these protein peanut butter balls. And we got emails in exchange for that recipe. And that's how we kind of grew on Facebook, and then just took off from there. But it's always about serving. And when you come from that space of how can I show up, and what can I give more? How can I give more value? How can I really solve this solution for them? It's like, you don't have to worry about all the other stuff. It'll come. You still have to work and strategize a little bit, but other than that, it will come.
So people buy virtually anything on two basic conditions: trust and value. Okay. So trust comes, how do you build trust? You're an unknown entity. How do you build trust? Well, it's exactly as she said, right? She delivered messaging, branding, and content, valuable content, over and over and over and over and over and over again ad nauseum, so that people realized, oh, she's not out here just trying to sell me something. She's actually trying to help me. So that's one way to create trust. There's other ways, but that's one great way. And that's actually the deepest way to build trust, the most powerful, long-lasting way. Then value, right? What's value? Well, value, when we think about value, we think about price, right? Like, oh, I think it's worth $100. She's selling it to me for $20. It's valuable. That's a really simple way of looking at value. Convenience is a value, as you mentioned, packaging it and putting it all in one easy place for me. There's a strong value component to that. Enhancing my life, making my life better in some way, healthier, in your case, both physically and mentally. Those are value, right? And so people make those decisions all day, every day, no matter what you buy. It doesn't matter if you're buying a HDMI cable on Amazon, you're making a trust and value equation. So for those of you who are about building your product, listen carefully to what she's saying. She delivered value first in bulk, then based upon that value, applied product. And at that point, sales happen. Yes, it's not a perfect solution, but generally speaking, if you do that, that will take care of 80-90% of your flow. Okay, so we're getting closer to the top of the hour here. So at this point, you're selling a ton of product, you're delivering even a metric ton of value in terms of content, right? I dare anyone to write 365 emails. I dare you to try to do that. It is so hard. So hats off. So when did you start writing the book? Like, what motivated you to do the first book, and then we can talk about your second book?
Well, I always wanted, so this is kind of an interesting story. I've always wanted to be a Hay House author. So for those of you who are familiar with Hay House publishing, it's like there's Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Deepak Chopra. Some of the people that I actually read for my own personal transformation were authors under this publishing house. So of course I had the dream of being like, wow, that'd be amazing if I could be an author someday, right? So this was always and it's fascinating. And this is, once again, the power of affirmation, the power of visualization, which I do in high level coaching, because I just visualized, this is what I would love. I would love to share my wisdom and the little bit of the science around what I know to be the catalyst for the business, the catalyst for the relationships, the catalyst for my health. And it's funny because all of a sudden I got a call from I didn't have an agent. I didn't write a book proposal. I got a call from the CEO of Hay House saying, hey, I would like to meet you. I've heard about you. I'd like to meet you. And that was when was that? That was like early 2018, or it was sometime in 2018. It wasn't very early.
Okay.
we literally get together, and instead of me being like, I want to write this and this and this, I just felt really called to get to know him. He was best friends with Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer. What was that like? Please tell me.
Yeah.
We became very
Yeah,
close.
right.
And he was like, Danette, we hope that you become a Hay House author. All of a sudden, I have this amazing deal in front of me, and they were like, you can write a book on anything, but we wanted you to do it in 6 weeks. And I was like, you want me to write a book on anything and have it done in 6 weeks? Okay. So of course, yeah, I had to really like go inward and be like, what do people need right now? And the thing about working with them that I just love, I feel like we're a family. Like, I don't like to work with anyone unless I feel like that, but it's like, Danette, we're going to be doing this inevitably. Like, we see you many books coming out of you, so don't put too much emphasis on what that first one is. And
Right.
so for me, it was really about being super raw. And I felt like so many people are afraid to say their shiny truth, which when I call shiny truth is like the truth that it's like the thing that you're kicking butt at. You're like, I don't want to be too shiny, or even the truth that you're feeling right now that might not feel popular. Like, a lot of people are sharing truths around what they feel about COVID or not feeling about COVID or all these things.
Right.
They're afraid of these truths, right? And then also all the mess. And I was like, God, if women could get in their power, and here I am, I'm scared of my truth. So here I go. I'm going to just write it and lay it all out. And I didn't sleep for like 6 weeks. And even when it launched, I was like, and then I didn't want my mom to read it. It was just this process. But the second time around, I was like, I'm not going to write a book for a while. I'm going to take a break. And Hay House came to me again. It's time for another book.
Oh man.
I was like, okay, you guys keep me on track. So I have a unique publishing story than I know a lot of people do. And I do trust that people, whatever your process is perfect for you. I think the universe or God or source just knew I needed that openness for me to be in my fullest expression.
I love it. Okay. Where can people learn more about you? Where can we guide them to get more of your content and more you?
Yeah. So go to DanetteMay.com if you want to learn about my programs or you want to learn about my book. And my second company, which is Earth Echo Foods. So Earth Echo Foods is all the foods that I personally take, all the supplements, and they're all the superfoods. So that's where you can find me and the things that I do.
I love it. Thank you so much. For those of you out there listening, thank you for joining us. This has been a fantastic journey, really, really exciting. You can always check out my website, pierrerogers.com. You'll find links to all of the podcasts, including this one there. You will also see the rest of our newsletter contest. You can also follow me on the Instagrams. So from all of us to you out there, thank you so much for being here today. This has been amazing, enlightening, hopefully inspiring to those of you who are going through your dip. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.